John here from The.Way.I.See.iT Sports, and this week we'll be covering the Wyndham Championship. But before we get on to this week's event, we're going to go ahead and review last week's event at the 3M Open in Blaine, Minnesota. We did have 4 of our top 10 miss the cut, although in defense of the model, Putnam, Hodges, and Valimaki all missed the cut by 1 stroke and did not have a chance to pull a Kitayama and have huge 3rd and 4th rounds and come back. But all in all, did okay for the week. 4 in the top 25. Jake Knapp's tied for 3rd. Was the good bet for me of the week and ended up helping us out there. All in all, kind of a little bit more of a mixed bag last week, but we're hoping to get a little more focused and back on track this week. So this week, the Wyndham Championship is at the Sedgefield Country Club. We're looking at a Donald Ross design. Par 70, 7,131 yards, not a long track at all. Championship Bermuda grass with 52 sand bunkers, water and play on 6 holes, and an average fairway width of 29 yards. This is very much a classic second shot course that rewards precision over power. So let's see how the field last year did. All right, here's our top 10 from last year. I believe it actually goes to 11 with all the T7s we had there. We have Aaron Rai, Grazerman with another second. I believe he had second in the 3M Open last year as well, so he must have been on a hot streak. Spa Hisasune, the amateur Luke Clanton in the top 5. Eckroat, Griffin, Svensson, Crow, Cole, and Horschel. One thing that we'll see ties all these players together is good to great iron play. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of analysis of the last year's leaderboard and see if what we see for consistent metrics. So the consistent metrics that we see: strokes gained approach. 7 of the top 11 finished with over +1 strokes gain, and Aaron Rai, the winner, led the entire field with over 2 strokes gain at 2.195 strokes gain on approach. Like we said before, this is a classic second shot course that rewards accuracy. Really want to be close to the hole with these undulating greens, Bermuda greens. Next, driving accuracy is more important than strokes gained off the tee. This is a short course, so like I said, with the narrow fairways, it does not favor bombers at all. There's a substantial rough versus fairway scoring penalty, significant difference between rough and fairway. So this is not a course where you can afford to not be in the fairway and think you're still going to be able to score. And then, for example, just to show you the strokes gained off the tee is not as important. Ben Griffin, who tied 7th, actually lost a little bit of strokes off the tee, but was so strong in approach he would still be able to finish in the top 10. And then finally, strokes gained putting, not as significant this week, although usually the top finishers gain some kind of strokes in putting. It's definitely not one of those ones where it's a huge number that pushes a lot of people over the top. So 3 out of the top 5 gained less than 0.7 strokes, with Aaron Rai only gaining 0.64 strokes putting. So you don't need to be a great putter, you just need to have a little bit better of a putting week, generally speaking. All right, so what does this lead us for our player profile? How are we going to build the ideal player for this week? Well, we want someone who is an elite ball striker, an elite strokes gain tee to green. We want to consider stroke gains off the tee, stroke gain around the green, but we definitely want to focus on iron play, and this being a second shot approach course. So we want strokes gain tee to green, but we're going to focus on the elite iron players of that by adding in strokes gain approach. And then, of course, we're going to have driving accuracy, since it is so important to play out of the fairway at this course if you want to score here. And so those are kind of like the attributes of the course, right? It's a second shot course, so you need the approach. You have to play out of the fairway, so you need the driving accuracy. But so I wanted a scoring stat to kind of tie it all together, because I was thinking about this example. This is an extreme example, but really quick here. So say for around over 18 holes, you hit the fairway on 12 of the holes, which is 66% above average. Good, you probably gain strokes off the tee. 12 of the holes, you gain strokes on approach, and then even 12 of the holes, you gain strokes putting. But if those stroke gains, since they're all independent of each other, are split up in a way where you're only hitting 2 out of the 3 on a hole, it goes like good drive, good approach, didn't make your putts par. Good drive, bad approach, able to scramble and save par. Or bad drive, make up the approach, make up with a good putt for par, but you're not really scoring high. So we want players that can kind of throw the approach, the driving accuracy, the approach, and the putt all together in one hole to score, because this is definitely a scoring course where the winner's usually around minus 20. Aaron Rai minus 18 last year. So our stat that's going to account for all that is birdie or better percentage on the fairway. So for this stat, you need to be in the fairway, and then so how often that you're in the fairway do you get a birdie or better, or you're able to score out of that. So it combines obviously your approach being good and being able to finish the putt off. So that is our final key stat of the week to tie everything together: birdie or better percentage from the fairway. Let's take a look at the model results. All right. So we ended up with 11 players again this week because we had a tie for 10th. So tier 3 between 250 and 275 points. We're starting off at tied for 10th. Last year's winner, Aaron Rai. Obviously, he has the game to win this course, but I would definitely argue that he is not on top of his game as he was last year. Definitely not playing quite as well. Still really good in tee to green, a little less so in iron play. Number 2 in driving, actually, which is amazing. But his worrisome statistic is he's 144th in birdie or better percentage from the fairway. So he's second best at putting it in the fairway, but when he gets in the fairway, he can't seem to score this year from it. All right, tied with Aaron Rai is Lee Hodges at number 10. He showed up on the model last week as well, a little bit higher up. These more iron heavy courses, these approach courses that, favor that and ball striking. Lee Hodges has a little bit of a, advantage in that way. So he's 36th in tee to green. He's 19th in approach, 45th in drive percentage, and 24th in birdie or better from the fairway percentage. Just hasn't been in great form yesterday. And then so our next two players tied for 8th at 265 points, Kevin Yu and Hideki Matsuyama. Kevin Yu, very much, great tee to green at 24th. Really good approach in the top 30 there, just over the top 30. 63rd in driving percentage, which is an elite, but well above average, and 10th or birdie or better percentage from the fairway, which I thought was really good for him. And then Matsuyama, 19th in tee to green, 24th in approach, 132nd in drive percentage, 16th in birdie or better from the fairway percentage. And then Dougie Gim, not much of a putter, as we all know, and this list didn't really focus on putting, and that's why we have some of these players showing up this week. But 14th in tee to green, top 20, 18th in approach, 52 in drive percentage, but really falls off 152nd in birdie or better percentage from the fairway. Obviously, having to do with that putting, he's not the greatest at. And then we move on to our tier 2 category between 200 and 250, but this group is actually 222 to 232, a really tight group of 3 players within 10, our next tier here. So we have Siwoo Kim here, 12th in tee to green, approach is top 40, 28th in drive percentage, and 56 birdie or better percentage from the fairway, and also he's just not that strong at putting again this year. Ben Cole surprised me a little bit on this list, but if you look at his numbers, he's been kind of moving up lists lately, performing pretty well lately. But top 40 in tee to green at 39, 23rd in approach, 3rd in fairway percentage, and 82nd on birdie or better percentage from the fairway. So Ben Cole's looking pretty solid these days, playing a lot better. And then Bobby Mack at 222 points, 22nd in tee to green. What do we got? Top 30 in approach. We got 51st in driving, and then 74th in birdie or better percentage from the fairway. So Bobby Mack, really good all-around player showing up on the list. And then our tier 1 from under 200 points this week, we got the captain at number 3, Keegan Bradley, with 198 points. Elite tee to green at 4th. Strokes green approach, not quite as much, but around just over 30th. 56% or 56 in drive percentage, and 62nd in birdie or better percentage from the fairway. Number 2, this one really surprised me, Rico Hui. I guess since it's not considering putting stats directly is why he made it so high on the list, but he's actually been playing pretty well lately as well. But he's 6th in tee to green, top 30 in approach, 13th in drive percentage, and 66 better birdie percentage from the fairway. And then our number one player for this week, we got Lucas Glover at 143 points, 17th in tee to green. We're looking at 21st in approach, 10th in drive percentage, and 26th in birdie percentage from the fairway. So really good tee to green, really good second shot, top notch and keeping it in the fairway. And when he gets in the fairway, he's able to convert it into points a good percentage of the time. So Lucas Glover, number one on the models results this week. So let's compare that to their betting odds for this week. So on the left, we have them from top to bottom on their ranking on the model results. And then on the right, their winning numbers from DraftKings as of 7/28. So we're looking at Lucas Glover at plus 4,000, Rico Hui at plus 8,000, the Capman Bobby Mack at both at plus 22, Ben Coles at plus 25,000, Siwoo Kim at plus 4,000, Gim at 12,000, Hideki and Rai both down there at plus 3,000, Yu plus 6, and then Hodges plus 13,000. So what do we think of our model results versus the betting odds? So I like to bet around 5 players a week, and usually eliminate players for varying reasons. First, we'll just start with odds again here. Keegan Bradley and Bobby Mack. I think they both, obviously, the model says they have a chance to win. I think they could definitely win. They're both great players. I just don't know if at 2,200, 22 to 1 is good enough odds. I don't feel that comfortable with that number. So I think I'm just going to skip on Bradley and McIntyre this week. And then if we go to the plus 3,000, Hideki Matsuyama and Aaron Rai, it's kind of twofold. The 30 to 1 isn't necessarily terrible, but they each have kind of a glaring stat that makes me feel a little uncomfortable to follow them at those odds. And with Rai, it's that 144th in birdie or better percentage from the fairway, so he's second overall at getting it into the fairway. But once he gets there, he can't convert it into birdies, which in this course you need to score. So he's just not as effective this year as he was last year. And then Hideki Matsuyama, it's his drive percentage at 132. There is a chance he could straighten it out this week, be a little more accurate, and the rest of his game carries him through, but I just can't trust that he's just going to be able to just hit it in the fairway, and you just cannot score like you can in other courses out of the rough here. So eliminate those 4 players so far. And then I'm going to eliminate 2 other players because of their putting, and we'll explain why here. Rico Hui and Doug Gim are literally the worst 2 putters in the PGA stats-wise. Rico Hui loses just over a stroke, and Doug Gim loses over just 9/10 of a stroke. And so that is significantly worse. So, for example, Ben Coles, also not a great putter. He's 159th in putting. Gim is 175th and Rico Hui is 176. Ben Cole loses just over 4/10 of a stroke versus the field, versus 9/10 or over a full stroke. So even though he's only 16 spots ahead of them on the rankings list, he loses less than half of what they lose in strokes putting. So that's a huge difference. Ben Cole is actually way closer to the 100th ranked putter than he is to those guys at the 175th, 176th strokes gained wise or lost. So gonna go ahead and fade Gim and Hui just because their putting is just so horrific that it's probably gonna hold them back in this tournament. I can see them, having a good round or 2, but not for 4 straight rounds. Their putting is just too bad. And then the final player I'm going to eliminate is actually the only form-based one, which is Lee Hodges. He scored pretty well last week, scored pretty well this week, but he has missed 3 straight cuts, and until I see a little something out of him, I'm going to have a hard time backing him in any way. So that leaves us with 4 players for the week. We have Lucas Glover, Ben Coles, Siwoo Kim, and Kevin Yu as our bets for this week. So my value pick of the week is Lucas Glover at plus 4,000. He was first in the model rank. He is in great form with a T9, T5, and a T23 in his last 3 events. And he's just happened to win this event 2 years ago. So it shows that he can win here, and he has the skill set to win here. So we're definitely backing Lucas Glover this week as the value pick of the week. And then my other 3 best bets to win here, we got Siwoo Kim at plus 4,000. He's been playing fairly decent. Putting is his weakness, but as we've seen in this event, you don't need to be super strong in putting. You just need to not be horrible for that week. So I believe he can do well here because he has history of doing well here, where in 2021 he lost was it a 5 or 6 man playoff that all at minus 15. I think Kisner ended up on top on that one, but obviously he's had successes this course and can play well here. Kevin Yu at plus 6,000. This is just totally skill based, no history, no particular form. His form hasn't been bad. He doesn't really have much of a history here, but he just has kind of the skill set that should excel here, and he doesn't have any glaring weakness that should hold him back. So we're going to back Kevin Yu this week, going based on that skill set. And then Ben Coles at plus 25,000. This is partially just a value thing, but also he's been in pretty good form lately with a T8 and a T20 in his last 3 events. So Ben Coles, like we were talking about earlier, I like him because even though he's not a great putter, he's a way better putter than Hui and Gim. And whereas Aaron Rai is second in drive percentage, but only 144th in better or birdie or better percentage. Ben Coles is third in drive percentage, but 82nd in birdie or better percentage, which is not like at the top, but it's above average and way better than someone like Rai. So Coles is putting it in the fairway and being able to score. So we want to see what he can do this weekend. Definitely want to back Coles up with a couple other like a top 10 or a top 20, because you can still get really good value there for that if you're not comfortable with him as a winner. And then just to wrap up, a couple of first round leader possibilities for you if you're into betting on the first round lead. We got 3 players that I'm not going to bet for the tournament, but I believe that they can spike for a round. So we got Lee Hodges, he's third in overall in first round scoring average, moved up 2 spots from last week. And then we have Rico Hui, is 18th in first round scoring average and able to put up some pretty good rounds. And then Doug Gim, again, don't trust Hui and Gim's putting for a full tournament, but just earlier this month, Doug Gim shot a 62. So I feel like Doug has it in him to go ahead and do that one more time. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the way I see it. If you enjoyed the content at all or you find it helpful, go ahead and give it a like or subscribe. But I hope you have a great week. I hope you enjoy the tournament later this week, and we'll see you on the next time.